Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of my dev journal, I guess. In today's video, I wanted to talk about like the top 5 mistakes that new engineers can make in their journey. So whether you are in the beginning stages of your journey where, maybe you're studying on your own or you're attending a boot camp, or you're in college and you're signing up for classes and things like that. For anyone who is looking to grow in their personal life or professional life, I think one of the most important factor is to be introspective and think about the things that you learn from. So I've kind of gathered a list of mistakes that new engineers make. Some of them comes directly from me, and some others I've asked some of my friends to share their thoughts. So let's get down to the list. So mistake number 1 is something that's kind of very important to me, which is not finding a good mentor. If you look at your career in like a 5-10 years or something like that, having a good mentor will make such a huge impact into your career. The reason why this is the case is like when you're trying to learn something new, if you try to do it all by yourself, obviously it will take you a lot longer to learn something, right? But if you have someone who has done that before, who have the experience and the wisdom to guide you along your track, then you'll find that you'll grow a lot more quickly. So hence you'll exceed a lot more faster in your career and you'll learn a lot more faster. So having a good mentor is very critical, I believe. The issue with having a good mentor is that it's not easy to find a good mentor. Oftentimes people are busy. Sometimes you outgrow kind of the general principles that your mentor can give. So you have to find new mentors, and people move away, things like that. But it's generally really difficult to find a good mentor. But one thing that I highly encourage everyone to do is to really strive to look out for new mentors. Make connections. I know it's awkward to send a message to someone you don't know, but try to make those connections. Keep pushing yourself to find people who are better than you, right? The second mistake that I see very often, and this is really particular for very new engineers, is to taking way too long to ask for help. So I've made a video on imposter syndrome and these kind of topics before, but most of the time people don't want to feel like they don't know something, right? So the common thing is that everyone feels like they should know everything because they studied X amount of years for something. But the reality of things is that it's almost impossible to know everything about everything, especially in the tech industry when things are being invented constantly and new frameworks and just a whole bunch of stuff is coming out. So one of the best tips is to understand what you exactly know, be honest about what you know, and be upfront about things you don't know and asking for help early. So usually what I like to do is if I don't know something, I'll time box myself 30 minutes to an hour to research as much as I can. And if I feel like I still don't know, I'll look out for people that are experts in that field. And then I'll tell them what I know and then try to get the knowledge back from that point. But mistake number 3 is something that I struggled really hard when I first started to be in the industry full time, right? So some of you guys know that I come from a non-traditional background. I have a few videos on it, but basically I studied on my own for 3 years and I did a boot camp, and then I got my first job at Capital One, and it's been about 3 years since that point. Early on when I started coding, I wanted to really prove myself. I really wanted to jump into coding and just pump out as much code as possible. So the issue with this is I like to call this jumping the gun, right? So in the beginning, when you hear a problem, the first instinct for kind of new engineers is to hear the problem and then say, oh, I have a solution, let me go code this up. So you'll see them go from point A to point B, right? But in retrospect, oftentimes what that leads is to code that gets thrown away. So in the real world, programming, physically scripting and writing, your fingers on your keyboards and writing the code is a very it's not the entire picture. It's only half of the entire story. The other half, and sometimes I would say it's almost bigger, the other half, the higher level you get. But the other half is understanding the problem, architecturing a good decision, getting as many people involved as possible to come with the best solution, you know, and figuring out the entire puzzle before you dive in and write a single piece of code. So oftentimes you'll see a lot of like junior engineers kind of rushing out to solve this problem. They'll solve it with like sheer willpower, right? This is kind of the wrong approach. Like the better thing to do is sit down, take a step back, look at the problem holistically, ask for feedback from different people, you know, get people to really think about the problem, think through the problem, and then, you know, write some system design docs, and then get it approved, and then go forth. You know, the whole goal for you is to do it more systematically, and something that other engineers will truly say, hey, that guy knows what he's doing, you know, because you could execute without wasting effort, right? So that's one of the big things that I learned how to do pretty early on in my career, and it really helped me, you know, kind of excel. But yeah, so that's a huge mistake that you guys should look out for. Mistake number 4. Now, mistake number 4 is basically not working on projects that are impactful. This is kind of hard to say, is because you kind of have to wear your like political hat. You know, this is a pirate's hat, but same thing. You kind of have to wear your political hat. What this means is, in a large company, a small company, or whatever, there is politics involved in your career trajectory, right? So you need to be upfront, you need to be like, you need to sometimes market yourself so that you can like at least stand out, right? And that's what gets you the promotions, that's what gets you the advancements, and etc. But in general, working on things that are impactful is, you know, generally better for your career than not. I'm gonna take this off. I do wanna say, like, a small caveat here is that if you're only chasing after things that are like just impactful in a way, you might not necessarily run into projects that really interest you. So that's something that you'll need to balance yourself. Do you balance the project's impact versus your learning? What is more important to you in this like early stage of your career? I would say they're pretty equally important, because in the early stage, any like opportunity, you know, for work, you should be able to learn something from it, right? So if you're gonna do something, try to pick something that is impactful. And a good tip to do this well is understanding how to say no, right? I mean, I guess that could be a mistake in of itself, of not being able to say no, but you need to, as an engineer or product person or anyone, you need to understand that your time is extremely valuable. So you need to be able to be strong enough to say no to certain things without offending anyone, without hurting anyone's feelings or anything like that. You just have to be straightforward. You have to have a good reason for saying no, but you need to be able to say no so that you could make the time available for you to do impactful and meaningful things, you know. And also another good tip is to understand what is impactful. That's like kind of a different topic, but basically the easiest ways to measure impact is how large of a reach is your program or service that you're building is going to reach. Is it reaching just your team? Is it just for your team, just for you, just for like some few other people? Or is it like within your org? Or even better, across your organization, like different lines of businesses, you know? Or maybe it's like a new feature that will affect millions of users or something like that. So those are kind of good ways to measure impact, but it is sometimes tricky to know what will be the most impactful, but you gotta kind of get a knack for picking the right horses to bet your time with, right? Because time is the most valuable. So finally, tip number 5 is, this is something that kind of happens towards the like latter stage of your kind of like career, and you'll keep running into this, and it's being complacent. As an engineer or anyone really in the tech industry, on your day-to-day job, there'll come a time where you feel like you're not learning. And things become so easy that you never feel a little uncomfortable. And you know, the thing is, there's a lot of people, you know, people usually just strive to be comfortable, right? And being complacent in a job or some position or like a specific tech stack or something like that, you need to force yourself to keep pushing through to the next level, right? Or you'll stay where you are, and worst, you will degrade your skills, and over time the world would have moved without you moving with it. That's pretty much like kind of the 5, in my opinion, one of the 5 most important mistakes that you need to look out for, right? No one's perfect. It's really hard to always be on top of all of these like kind of mistakes that you could potentially make, but just, you know, remember it, look out for it. The number one thing I would like to point out is that most of these mistakes can be avoided if you just work on one really simple like thing, which is being introspective, right? I personally think that the skill of like really looking at your own self and seeing, you know, asking yourself, are you happy? Are you being challenged? Are you being overconfident? Are you doing your best work? You know, all these things, like you should constantly be asking these questions to yourself. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick video on the top 5 mistakes that you can make in your engineering career. If you feel like I've missed any great like mistakes that you've ran into, comment down below, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.